Imagine a country so large that when the sun rises on its eastern border, it is already midnight on its western border. A country that spans 11 time zones, more than any other nation on Earth. A country that sits on top of the largest natural gas reserves in the world, the second largest nuclear arsenal in history, and some of the most brutal winters ever recorded by human civilization. A country that once built an empire so powerful it stretched from the Pacific Ocean all the way to Alaska. A country that defeated Napoleon. A country that broke the back of Hitler's armies. A country that launched the first human being into space. And a country that today, in 2026, is fighting the bloodiest war in Europe since World War II, while its president defies the entire Western world and refuses to back down. That country is Russia. Russian Federation, one of the most powerful, most complex, most mysterious, and most consequential nations in the history of the world. Russia is not just a country. It is a civilization unto itself, with its own language, its own alphabet, its own religion, its own music, its own literature, and its own deeply unique way of seeing the world. From the frozen tundra of Siberia to the golden domes of Moscow, from the brutal history of the Tsars and Stalin to the nuclear standoff of today, Russian civilization began over 1,500 years ago with the East Slavic peoples. In 988 AD, Prince Vladimir converted Russia to Orthodox Christianity, a decision that shaped Russian culture forever. In the 13th century, the Mongol armies of Genghis Khan destroyed every major Russian city and ruled Russia for over 200 years. This left a permanent mark on the Russian soul, a deep fear of invasion, and a need for strong central leadership. From the ruins of Mongol rule rose the powerful state of Moscow. Ivan the Terrible became the first Tsar of all Russia in 1547. Peter the Great in the 1700s modernized Russia completely, building the magnificent city of Saint Petersburg and transforming Russia into a European empire. Catherine the Great expanded Russia's borders dramatically to the south and west. In 1812, Napoleon invaded Russia with 600,000 soldiers. Fewer than 100,000 made it back home alive. Russia destroyed the greatest army in Europe. Then in 1917, the Russian Revolution overthrew the Tsar and brought the communists under Lenin to power. The Soviet Union was born. Stalin followed, and under his brutal rule, millions died in famines, purges, and labor camps. But when Hitler invaded in 1941, the Soviet people fought with incredible courage. Over 27 million Soviets died defeating Nazi Germany, the greatest sacrifice of any nation in World War II. After the war, the Soviet Union became a superpower. It launched the first satellite into space and the first human into orbit. Then in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. Russia fell into poverty and chaos. In 1999, a former KGB officer named Vladimir Putin came to power, and Russia's story entered its current chapter. Russia is the largest country in the world, covering 17.1 million square kilometers across Europe and Asia. It is so big that it spans 11 time zones. Russia shares land borders with 14 countries, including Norway, Finland, China, North Korea, and Ukraine. Across the narrow Bering Strait lies Alaska, just 88 kilometers away. The landscape includes vast Siberian plains, the Ural Mountains, Lake Baikal, the world's deepest lake, and the frozen Arctic North. The capital is Moscow, the largest city in Europe with over 12 million people. It is the political, economic, and cultural heart of Russia. The second city is St. Petersburg, the former imperial capital, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Russia's population in 2026 is approximately 143.4 million people, making it the 9th most populous country in the world. The population is declining because the death rate now exceeds the birth rate. The war in Ukraine has made this worse, killing young men and driving educated Russians to emigrate abroad. About 80% of the population is ethnic Russian. Over 190 other ethnic groups also live in Russia. The average life expectancy is 73.4 years, lower than most European countries, partly because of very high rates of alcohol-related illness. Approximately 71% of Russians are Russian Orthodox Christians. The Orthodox Church, with its golden domed cathedrals, beautiful music, and rich spiritual tradition, is deeply connected to Russian national identity. Islam is the second religion, practiced by 10 to 15% of the population, mainly in Chechnya, Dagestan, and Tatarstan. Under the Soviet Union, religion was suppressed for 70 years, but since 1991, it has made a powerful comeback. Russia has a near 100% literacy rate. Education is free and compulsory. Russia is world famous for its excellence in mathematics, physics, chess, music, and ballet. Moscow State University, founded in 1755, is one of the most prestigious universities in the world. However, since the war began in 2022, many educated young Russians have left the country, creating a serious brain drain that threatens Russia's scientific and intellectual future. Russia has a free national healthcare system for all citizens, a legacy of the Soviet era. In Moscow and major cities, healthcare quality is good. In remote Siberian regions, it is very poor. The biggest public health problem is alcoholism, which dramatically shortens the lives of Russian men. Average male life expectancy is only around 68 years. The ongoing war has put further strain on the healthcare system. The most loved holiday in Russia is New Year's Eve, celebrated with enormous joy, family gatherings, fireworks, and the yolka, the decorated fir tree. It carries more cultural weight than Christmas for most Russians. Victory Day on May 9th commemorates the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany. It is a deeply emotional day of national pride, military parades, and remembrance. However, in 2026, the parade in Moscow was dramatically reduced. No tanks or missiles were displayed for the first time since 2007 because of fears of Ukrainian drone strikes. It was a powerful symbol of how much the war has changed Russia. Orthodox Christmas falls on January 7th. Easter, called Pascha, is the most spiritually important holiday, marked by midnight church services and the exchange of decorated eggs. Traditional Russian clothing includes the ushanka, the famous fur hat with ear flaps, designed for brutal winters. Women traditionally wore the sarafan, a long embroidered dress. Today, most Russians dress in modern Western clothing, with traditional dress worn at cultural festivals. Russia's cultural contributions to the world are extraordinary. Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Pushkin, and Chekhov produced some of the greatest literature ever written. Tchaikovsky composed some of the most beloved music in history. The Bolshoi Theater in Moscow is one of the greatest ballet and opera stages in the world. Moscow has one of the most intense and glamorous nightlife scenes in Europe, famous for its exclusive clubs, strict dress codes, and wealthy clientele who spend extraordinary amounts of money. The city never truly sleeps. Saint Petersburg is famous for its white nights in June and July, when the sun barely sets and the city hosts outdoor concerts, canal parties, and festivals that continue until dawn. It is one of the most magical nightlife experiences in the world. The traditional Russian banya, steam bathhouse, is also a central part of social life. Russians go to the banya with friends and family to sit in intense steam, beat each other with birch branches for health, and plunge into cold water. It is as much a social ritual as a health practice. Russian food is hearty and warming, designed for cold winters. Borscht is the most famous Russian dish, a rich beet soup served with sour cream. Pelmeni are Russian dumplings filled with minced meat, the ultimate comfort food. Beef stroganoff, tender beef in creamy mushroom sauce, is a Russian classic known worldwide. Blini are thin pancakes served with sour cream, caviar, smoked salmon, or jam. Shkai is an ancient cabbage soup eaten in Russia for over 1,000 years. Dark rye bread, pickled vegetables, smoked fish, and of course, vodka are all central to Russian food culture. Russian caviar is internationally regarded as one of the world's greatest luxury foods. Russia has one of the most extreme climates on Earth. Winters are long and brutally cold. Moscow averages -10 to -20 degrees Celsius. In Yakutsk, Siberia, the coldest inhabited city on Earth, temperatures can fall to -50 degrees. Spring arrives explosively. Rivers crack open with ice. Forests turn green overnight, and Russians emerge from winter with enormous energy. Summer is warm and beautiful. Moscow reaches 25 to 30 degrees. St. Petersburg enjoys magical white nights. Autumn brings stunning golden birch forests and the beloved tradition of gathering mushrooms in the woods. Russia's currency is the Russian Ruble, symbol ruble. The economy in 2026 has a nominal GDP of approximately 2.5 to 2.7 trillion US dollars, making it one of the top 12 economies in the world. Russia's economy runs on oil and natural gas. It is one of the world's top 3 energy producers. Western sanctions after the 2022 invasion of Ukraine have damaged the economy significantly, but Russia has survived by trading more with China, India, and Turkey. Inflation is running at around 8 to 9%. The enormous cost of the war is putting serious pressure on Russia's finances. Russia's military is ranked second in the world by the Global Firepower Index 2026, behind only the United States. It has 1.32 million active soldiers and 3.57 million reserves. It has the largest tank fleet in the world, over 12,000 tanks. Its nuclear arsenal of approximately 5,889 warheads is the largest in the world, more than any other country including America. Russia has advanced hypersonic missiles, 60 nuclear-armed submarines, and approximately 4,292 military aircraft. However, the war in Ukraine has exposed serious problems. Despite being the world's second military power on paper, Russia has struggled against a much smaller Ukrainian force. Over 400,000 Russian soldiers have been killed or seriously wounded. Corruption within the military has been exposed. Putin has purged over 100 senior military officers since 2022, the biggest military purge since Stalin. Moscow's Red Square and the Kremlin are among the most iconic places on Earth, absolutely unmissable. The Moscow metro is itself a museum, with breathtaking chandeliers, mosaics, and marble stations built under Stalin. Saint Petersburg is one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. The Hermitage Museum contains over 3 million works of art. The Church of the Savior on Spilled Blood is covered entirely in brilliant mosaics. The white nights of summer are magical. Lake Baikal in Siberia is one of the world's greatest natural wonders, the world's deepest lake holding 20% of Earth's fresh surface water. In winter, its ice becomes crystal clear and turquoise, one of the most extraordinary sights on the planet. The Trans-Siberian Railway, the longest railway in the world at 9,288 kilometers, is one of the great travel experiences of the human race. The Golden Ring, medieval towns near Moscow with ancient churches and Kremlin fortresses, shows Russia as it looked centuries ago. Russia is officially a republic, but in practice, it is an authoritarian state where all real power belongs to one man, President Vladimir Putin. Putin is a former KGB officer who came to power in 1999 and has ruled Russia for over 25 years. In 2020, he changed the constitution to allow himself to remain president until 2036. He was re-elected in 2024 in an election international observers called neither free nor fair. Putin's most consequential and devastating decision was ordering the full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022, the largest military attack in Europe since World War II. He expected a quick victory. For years later, the war continues at enormous cost in Russian lives and money. Opposition politicians in Russia have been imprisoned, exiled, or killed. The most famous opposition leader, Alexei Navalny, died in a Russian prison in February 2024. The International Criminal Court has issued a war crimes arrest warrant against Putin himself. Official polls show Putin's approval rating above 80%. But in a country where criticizing the war can get you arrested, these numbers must be treated with great caution. Genuine support exists, particularly among older Russians in smaller cities who receive all their news from state television and believe Russia is defending itself against Western aggression. But beneath the surface, discontent is growing. Hundreds of thousands of educated young Russians have left the country since 2022. A Russian official speaking anonymously to the Washington Post said the general mood among Russians is, "Enough already. You have been fighting long enough, and we cannot even take one region." Inflation, rising prices, the deaths of sons and husbands, and the isolation from the world are all wearing on ordinary Russian people, even if they cannot say it publicly. Internationally, Putin is viewed as a war criminal by Western governments. An arrest warrant has been issued against him by the International Criminal Court. Russia in 2026 is under serious pressure from every direction. The war in Ukraine is going badly. Russian forces lost ground in April 2026 for the first time since 2024. Ukrainian drones are striking deep inside Russian territory, hitting oil refineries and military bases. The Moscow Victory Day parade was stripped of all military hardware, a humiliating symbol of the war's toll. The economy is struggling under the weight of military spending, Western sanctions, and high inflation. The population is shrinking. Young educated Russians are leaving. The human cost of the war, over 400,000 casualties, is devastating families across the country. And yet Russia endures. Its nuclear weapons guarantee its survival. Its vast territory and natural resources give it deep resilience. Its people have survived invasions, famines, revolutions, and totalitarianism, and they carry that history in their bones. Whether Putin can find a way out of this war without losing everything he staked on it is the most important question in Russia today. The answer remains unknown. From the ancient forests of Kievan Rus to the nuclear submarines beneath the Arctic Ocean, from Tolstoy and Tchaikovsky to Stalin and Putin, Russia is a land of breathtaking beauty and terrible power, a civilization unlike any other on Earth. Whatever you think of Russia, you cannot ignore it, because when Russia moves, the whole world shakes. Thank you for watching. If you learned something today, like this video, subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon, and share this with friends. Comment below and tell us, what surprised you most about Russia? Which country should we cover next? We will see you in the next documentary.